Okay. All right. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to the Bold Life Podcast. My name is Tracy Justice, and I am your host. And I am here with my special host for this particular series. Check on your bold sister, Jill Battle.
Hi. Yes, it's good to be here again, talking to you. I'm excited about this episode, so I can't wait to get into it.
Yes, me too. And because I have been sick for a while, and I'm just so happy to be back in the mix of things today. And I'm still feel like I'm just still shaking out the squigglies, but I am just so excited to get into it as well. And just to let you know, I've also I've been like testing Instagram just to kind of see how that works with Instagram as well. So we are live on Instagram as well. So super cool. Hello, welcome to our Instagram and participants as well. My gosh, can I get the words out? So before we get started into our conversation, I'm just really excited because you know what? We really do need to check on our bold sisters, right? And today, I think if anything, I've been looking forward to this because I need to check in on my bold sisters. So how are you doing? How are you doing, Jill? Before we really get into the meat of stuff, what's been going on?
Yes, well, Tracy, I turned 41 yesterday.
Yes. Can I sing to you real quick? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jill. Happy birthday to you and many more. Yes.
Listen, if you don't want to do this podcast, you have an opportunity to go get a record deal. Beyonce might listen to this, girl.
You know what? Thank you. You are just so kind. You know what? I love to sing, but not to digress. But I always feel like if I'm supposed to sing, I think it's supposed to be gospel because I feel like that's how I really, I'm that kind of singer where I'm trying to get everybody all emotional, all up in their feelings. I'm that type of, so I always say if I go big, it has to be, just encouraging people to worship the Lord. But 41, congratulations, because not everybody gets to see 40, 41. And we've talked about stories like even I can't let go of Dr. Bailey. But you know what? Some people are not here today, but thank God, you have a birthday and we're celebrating it. So what did you get to do? What did you do? If you don't mind sharing, and you don't have to share too much.
I can share because it's probably one of the best birthdays I've had. My 16-year-old surprised me with dinner at a steakhouse. And it meant a lot. Yes. So my son decided.
Yes, you're 16. I love that. Teaching them young. I know that's right.
Mm-hmm. He put on a suit and made reservations. So it just the experience let me know that, what I've done so far is working because he's very considerate and he was the perfect gentleman. Like I tell you, my son made sure that I felt very special on my.
I love that. We don't have to share it on here, but I would love to see pictures if you have pictures. I mean, because that is beautiful. Oh my gosh, that is so sweet. And then 16 years old. So what grade?
He's a junior.
Oh, wow. Yeah, oh, my, I love that. Oh,
and people were just like, when we walked in, they're like, is this your mom? And you're taking your mom out? What a gentleman. And I mean, just from pulling out the seats to opening the doors.
Really?
And I was just like, wow, everything that I have taught you, you're putting it into practice. So, I'm just amazed at the man he's becoming.
I love that. Oh my goodness. So then what else have you been up to? Like, what have you been bold about so far in 2024, right? Because we're like in February 15th. What have you been bold about so far?
You know what, Tracy, that's such a good question. I am boldly being intentional about balancing out my feelings.
Okay.
And this is big. I don't know about you, but I have a tendency to react emotionally to things. And so something good happens in my life, and I'm up here. And then 5 seconds later, I can get bad news and I'm down here. And so I'm learning that while I don't control any of this outside external stuff, but what I can control is how I'll respond to it.
That's right.
And so, but you have to be aware of when you are spiking and going down. And so, just even today, like I was on cloud nine about some news, and then I got a call 10 minutes later that, something happened that I didn't expect. It immediately deflated my bubble.
Yes.
And what I'm starting to realize is I need to hold off on judging whether something is good or bad in my life.
You know what?
Yeah.
No, go. But I love how you said that, the judging, because I think that that's exactly it. It's that labeling it as whether it's good or bad that does send us on a pendulum swing where it's like, because it is very hard to kind of balance that when you kind of feel up and you kind of feel low. Well, what have you been doing though, like to kind of help you, kind of find that peace?
So I call a trusted advisor. I call someone that I trust, and I'll talk it out. And I did that today. My dad today happened to be my trusted advisor this time.
Yes.
And he said, baby, take a breath. And he said, don't get too low and don't get too high.
Yes.
He said, you need to just kind of ride this out, because you don't, that good thing that happens in your life today, you don't know how it'll pan out tomorrow. So just take it as it is. Just take it as it is. And that bad thing that you think is bad might work out in your favor.
That's right. That's right.
So it's really about just kind of being even keel, taking life as it is, without the emotional spikes, because we're labeling something that we actually don't know if it's bad or good. We're giving it a label, and we're not even sure what it is. So see what it is first, right? That closed door may be for your benefit, or that door that opened, you might walk in and find out it's not the right room.
That's right. Or it can just take a while before it's time for the door to open, and then it's just like, oh, finally the door opens. But I totally get that. And I think especially in the beginning of this year, we're also focused on what it is that we want. We have our goals, and sometimes it's just not moving quickly enough. I know for me, sometimes I feel like things are not moving as quickly. Just talking about earlier how I started, talking about not feeling good recently. And I think and it's just crazy because, and I think we kind of talked about this earlier, just, as we were just talking, but how it's like, oh gosh, and it just left my head that quickly. Gosh darn it. When we're working on something, I always do this. I start thinking about it, and then it just slips my head. But what were we just talking about?
It'll come back to you, Tracy. But I think even to your point of being sick and how we judge that as something negative. Like,
yes.
Oh my gosh, I'm not doing this or that. And what if your body telling you to rest is preparing you and giving you the opportunity to recharge for that big thing that's coming up next, the next chapter, or
that's the truth. And that's the truth. And but it's funny, it's because I could be happy. I should be pleased about, the fact that I've been staying consistent weekly. I am sad. I did have to cancel a show yesterday, but we're picking that back up for next week. But I've been able to be consistent, right? Weekly. Okay, stay on this. And I just, but instead of me, being happy with that and just saying, Tracy, celebrate the wins, celebrate what you have been doing, right? No, I'm focusing on the fact that I had to cancel something yesterday. Or I told myself I wanted to stay up on things. As you're starting your own business, social media, a digital footprint is very important, right? Okay. And I beat myself up just because I couldn't stay on that. And it goes back to that balancing our emotions, right? Like giving ourselves grace. Like, okay, what have you been doing? Right? And I've been doing this, at least staying consistent. Maybe. But no, and it's, so I totally understand that up and down. So what have I been doing? Honestly, just talking to myself about it, honestly, and just saying, okay, work through it, Tracy. That you feel this way, don't stuff it. Don't act like you're not feeling this way, but find a way through it. Navigate, kind of dispel some of these stories that you're telling yourself about yourself in it. Dispel them, diffuse them, and then move on,
And right there. So Tracy, here's what I love. The fact that you are aware that you're
Mm-hmm.
beating yourself up, right? That you're not giving yourself grace. Like, I think the first step for us is just awareness of the fact that we are unfairly holding ourselves to a perfect standard. Like,
Yes.
why can't you take a rest? What's wrong with taking a break and saying, you know what, today's not my day. I'm going to cancel it until it is my day, until I am better, right? Like,
Yeah.
question for you is, what makes you hold yourself up to this standard of perfection?
Ooh. And you know what? And it's not really the perfection. Great question. I would say it's really making sure that I don't slip, right? Just making sure that I'm doing something. And it's funny because like, right, because as I'm talking about it, when I say I just want to at least be doing something towards that dream, I am doing it, right? But I don't know, right? It's just that sometimes it's that feeling of this, I need to do more, or I need to accomplish more. I don't know. It's a crazy thing. And that's why we have to check on our both sisters, right? Because we be the main ones, right? That'll say, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I've got this, But
Yeah.
be the main ones that are just like, no, I'm not. I don't have it all.
Well, no, and Tracy, just even going back to something you said, because it reminds me of something I would say to myself, is I got to make sure that I don't slip.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
What is life if not about making mistakes, slipping, and learning from them? Like,
that's right.
Like, Tracy, why can't we slip? That's the standard I'm talking about is, I got to make sure that I don't make a mistake. When the truth is, we come out the womb learning. Mistakes are about making a decision. It doesn't go right, learning from it and getting better.
Yes.
Like
because it's really no mistake.
It really isn't. Lessons. Like, they're just lessons.
But I think it even goes back to when you said awareness, right? Because it really is that awareness. It's really this, how do I stay present? Because what I'm finding, right, and I'm somebody that's been practicing, trying to stay aware constantly. And what I find, it's a constant, if you're not careful, if you're not vigilant over your mind, right, like thoughts will come through. And so it's like you have to be aware, you have to be present, we have to teach ourselves to be present in the moment so we can catch it and say, whoa, wait. Let's not go down this slippery slope of negativity. But it's a constant being vigilant and saying, okay, whoa, these are not good thoughts. These are not good thoughts. And so you just, and then you think about people who may not be used to kind of stopping themselves and saying, these are not good thoughts. It's just really interesting, right? Because we can say, we got to be aware, we can say, and I think that this goes to why we need a tribe, right? Yeah. Because we can say, I'm going to stay focused, I'm going to stay on top, I'm going to do what I need to, but then those negative thoughts come through and you find yourself fighting with those thoughts instead of spending the energy doing what it is that you need to do. It's just being expended in those thoughts.
Tracy, do you have a bold mantra or something you tell yourself when these thoughts, because here's the thing about life, even the greatest of us doubt ourselves. If someone walked up to me and says, I know I won't fail, I'm the most confident person in the world, like, I know that's bull crap. Everybody questions themselves and their abilities because it's human nature. So is there a quick go-to mantra, a bold mantra, right? Because this is what we talk about really boldly.
Yes.
Something that will help you stop those thoughts in their tracks?
You know what stops it is that I'm just like, it is what it is. Like, honestly, like, I'll just be like it's all good. Like, whatever I think, whatever I believe, I know that that's really going to be what it is for me, right? So I just tell myself, don't be attached to it. Don't be attached to the thoughts. It's just a thought. And that's what sometimes that's what I really have to tell myself. Like, sometimes I'm finding that I don't want to fight with the thought. I don't want to resist the thought so much, but maybe I just kind of just say, it is what it is. It's a thought I'm having, and it's not, it doesn't mean anything. I'm bold. I'm a risk taker. I'm going to take a chance. But, but it is that constant. I am that person that's constantly constantly saying, oh, no, it's all right. It's all right. But then I think about people who don't. Oh, sorry about that. I think about people who don't necessarily think about being aware, and then I think, like, if it's stressful for me, oh my gosh, how stressful is it for that other person who may not even be considering the fact that they're telling themselves negative thoughts on a consistent basis?
Right. It's interesting how many people use alcohol and drugs to drown those thoughts out, right? People self-medicate
Yes.
because they are not aware that it's their own mind that they're fighting.
Yes.
And
And so that's why I try to tell myself, calm down. It's not the end of the world, but I'm not gonna lie, it's still a struggle, right? Like it's a constant telling yourself, you got this. You can move
And
forward.
honestly, it's going to be a struggle. Like, I don't think when I say struggle, it's always a challenge. It's a practice every day to remind yourself of who you are. I think it's a quote I've read about how important the renewing of the mind is.
Yes.
Right? Renew, make sure that every day. I know some women who wake up in the morning and the first thing that they do is repeat a mantra that in the morning. I want to say Mary J. Blige came out with a song called Good Morning Gorgeous.
Yes. That, you know what? I haven't done morning mantras. So now, real quick, before you even get it, do you have one? Because I know you were asking me if I have a mantra, and I really don't. I just self-talk. I self-coach. I'm just self-encouraging, self-cheerleader type person. Well, for you, do you have a mantra?
You know what? I did, and it's funny is a year ago I was asked to come speak to a group of senior girls in high school who were getting ready to graduate, and in my speech to them I said, you are divinely curated. Like, all of these experiences in your life are there to shape you to become the beautiful person you're meant to be.
Yes.
And so today I said this to myself. As I said, my emotions sometimes will do this based on occurrences and events in my life.
Yes.
I said, Jillean, you are divinely curated. Like,
that's right.
The things that are being in your life are not coming into your life to defeat you, but to define you.
That's right. Help you really define who you are, right? Really help you explore more of who you are, right? Because sometimes, we kind of go through, and because I do this all the time, right? We go through this and we're just like, I shouldn't be going through this.
Yeah.
Like, this seems like what I should be going through, but why am I not going through that? Why am I going through this? And I think that it's sometimes even in that's when you realize, like, it's because I'm holding on to an image of myself that really doesn't exist. That's why, I'm going through this. It's because I've got to shake it off. It's like God is trying to show me myself. But until I can just stop resisting, and I think that's why I coach myself to just kind of be like, stop resisting stuff. Because I think sometimes we realize that scary thing is really not a scary thing. It's just because it's unknown, but it helps us realize who we really are. But it's still scary sometimes. I mean,
it's I don't
know.
Tracy, here's what I am starting to realize as I now am 41 years old, and
look at that, 41. You still a baby. I'm still older, but it's okay. I'm 43. But hey, I'll be 44 this year. Lord have mercy.
I love it. Listen, for me to make it to 41 is a blessing. So
you know what? That's right.
But I think when these challenging moments, when these moments come into us, instead of looking at it as, why me? Why am I going through this? Instead of turning into victimization, turn into the victor of like, how is this going to make me better? What am I supposed to learn from this? Because again, back to what we talked about, these are just lessons, right?
Yes.
We've all gone through school. And so for most of us, the test, right? When we prepared for the test and we cleared that hurdle, we were better in terms of we knew more, we downloaded and we graduated to that next level.
Yes.
So these challenges, I don't think life is any different. I think we are met with opportunities to define who we are. You know, am I going to be the coward or the courageous woman?
That's right. That's right. And you know what? And that's what motivates me. I tell myself, risk taker, right? Like, take chances, take chances, take chances. You never know. Take chances. So what? You know, but what I'm finding that is, and I think it's really this cancel culture thing. I think that sometimes, you know, because it just seems like now you can't really, I don't know. I think that sometimes it just really depends. You got to really be careful, because it's like if you talk about your feelings or talk about where you sometimes it feels like you have to kind of muzzle yourself. I don't know, like you have to keep your mouth shut, so then now you can't really talk about those things you want to see, even for yourself or for the community that you're in, right? Because then it's like, oh, somebody might portray, right? Like, for example, we love all women, right? Like I am all about all women, supporting all women, right? But you know, sometimes you wonder, will people look at it and say, well, if you talk about just Black sisters, are you excluding others? And sometimes you're like, you know, I think that sometimes even when we talk about mental health, right, or balancing our emotions, sometimes it's being able to say, I love all people, but sometimes I need to just talk to people who fully, you know, who understand better. And it's not to exclude, but it's to help me understand myself and help me realize that I am more normal. What I'm going through is normal. People that look like me, we do go through this, and we may step out and look really confident and look like we're not going through things or whatever, but it is normal for us to have certain stresses. You know, so I want to see what you have to say to that. And then I want to show you a video, because just even talking about, it's funny because, you know, sometimes when you start talking about things, or I like to say vibrating on a certain wavelength, and you start bringing things towards you, right? And so earlier I was looking through YouTube and found this video about, and it called it Black Girl Depression. And I just thought it was real interesting, right? So probably share it for a little bit, and then we can kind of pause it and see, you know, what you have to say. But I'm going to go ahead and start it. So let's see, let's go here and press play.
As we celebrate Black History Month on GMA, this morning we're looking at mental health among Black women in particular, and how the culture of struggling in silence is now changing with a new generation. Deborah Roberts sat down with two women who are paving the way. Good morning, Deb.
Good morning, Lindsay. And yes, paving the way, it is so important. Lately, we've heard a lot of discussion, especially from millennials, about prioritizing our mental health. But in communities of color, the conversation can be a little tricky, particularly amongst older women who prioritize strength and perseverance. Yet a mom and daughter from Maryland are trying to bridge that divide.
I would tell her about, you know, other things going on with myself physically, but when it came to mental health, it just wasn't a discussion that we had in our family.
From a small child, my emotions, you suppress them, you suck it up, you keep it moving.
Lauren and Glenda Boone expressing a long-held belief among Black women: keep your struggles and your innermost feelings to yourself.
The strong Black woman is the image that we admire. Mm-hmm. Did you ever think about paying attention to your mental wellness?
Never. I never thought about taking care of my mental health, because my generation was taught when you talked about mental, you automatically thought mental illness. And so it was very difficult for me to even consider taking care of my mental health.
That's what we call the superwoman schema. I can do it all, push through, persevere. If I'm distressed, it's my fault and my responsibility. So going to a therapist means I'm not doing my job ultimately.
But that thinking slowly changing in communities of color.
Black women, we have always been like having to put on a mask like everything is okay.
Thanks partly to well-known figures who are bravely opening up publicly.
We are usually everybody's therapist.
Yes.
Including former Destiny's Child singer Michelle Williams, who speaks openly about her history of depression and says mental health struggles can look different in women of color.
So I figured I'd stop here for a little bit and see if you had anything that popped up. But I apologize. I had to keep coming off. I don't know what happened, but just a coughing fit all of a sudden. So I apologize for that. Anything that came up for you so far, or I could just continue to play. What do you think?
You know, interesting enough, and this thought popped up about the older generation having a harder time showing emotion and breaking down and being vulnerable. And what thought just came up to me was slavery, and how you think about the enslaved women who had their babies ripped from them or were raped by their slave owners. Unfortunately, if you think about it, they weren't allowed to grieve. They weren't allowed to be vulnerable, to be emotional. I mean, they had to get back out there and work, right? I mean, you had the ripping of families, you had this uncertainty, you had all of this, and the more I'm sure that the more emotional or grief-stricken they were, the more that they were battered or abused. And so, to be quite honest, if I think about this, and this just popped up in my head, you almost had to be strong willed in order to survive. You could not break down. And could you imagine, of an enslaved woman whose child just been ripped up saying, "Oh, I need a leave of absence to deal with this grief," right? I can't hear you.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, that is so deep because I mean, yeah, no, I can't, I mean, that's really deep when you think about this. So what I'm hearing you say is like, yeah, it makes sense because it's been deeply ingrained into our very being that this is just who we are, who we need to be, is just this strong. But go ahead.
I was going to say, I don't even know if it's who we need to be. I think it's who we have had to be to survive.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
That's true.
I'm going to just be honest, because I'll bring an emotion. I'll bring a very personal experience for this. When I was in law school, I divorced, and I was a single mom to 2 kids. And I could not, in my mind, I could not go through a grieving period. I needed to stay strong for my kids to get to finish law school. So there was no sense of opportunity to break down for me, right? And so I think about our ancestors that had to keep going. And I say this because, an enslaved woman may have one of her kids taken away and sold, but she had 3 others or 4 others that she had to keep going for. So I think we have had no choice. We have had no choice but to deal with our emotions, suppress them, because vulnerability at times could be death.
Yes. I mean, yes. I mean, because it's crazy. When Megan Thee Stallion, when she said that most of the time, and it's funny because not to say that, but sometimes it does. And I don't want to say, like, let me be careful how I say it, right? Like, but she said something about like it seems like most of the time we end up being therapists for most of our friends, people. Honestly, I felt like that's what I played at my last job. And I think it just played against me because it just looked like, it was like, oh, you're good for that. You're good for me to come pour and just find that consolation, that nurturing space. I love that part. But anything else, yeah, I don't need from you. And I feel like, it's I don't know, like if it's subconsciously trying to play this role of nurturing everyone all the time, trying to nurture everyone. I don't know. It's just weird. I don't know. Like, do you ever sense that?
No, Tracy, I think historically, if I even look at Hollywood and movies and media, if you think of the early movies that came out, they had a Black mammy, and she was the emotional support. She was the woman who took care of the children when the mistress was overwhelmed, right? She had this sense of support. Like, her job was to support the family that she worked for, be it the kids, be it the mistress and the mister. And then if you move forward in Hollywood, most of the movies I recall seeing was that the Black woman, if she was in the movie, she was the sidekick to the main character, and her only job was to be there to listen to whatever problems and whatever, chaos the main character was going through. She literally was just a sounding board. None of the movies really delve into her, what she could be going through as a character,
That's
and
deep. That's
so
deep.
I think what we've been taught, what we've seen, in Hollywood and in media, is that you're a supporting role. Your job is to support, the main
Yeah.
characters, and you're never the main character. Until recently, the roles that Black women have had in movies and TV shows, they were just support. And so I think when we see that, you kind of mimic what you see.
And now that's even deep, right? Because then it goes back to like, and I guess bringing so many things into this conversation, but, just going back to like when they say like, we're, I'm not trying to get deep, but, too deep, but, how sometimes TV can really indoctrinate us and we're not paying attention. If we're not paying attention, right? Like if we're not paying attention to exactly what we're consuming, we are being trained, right? We are being conditioned. But I just thought it was really interesting about that Black girl depression because because how do we, right? Because in the if we finish this, I think there's a few more minutes in it, and really they're just talking about like how the mother and daughter, what they did is they came together to really work on generational healing. So really, making it more normal to talk about emotions and feelings and how they're feeling. But what do you think? Like when you think about I don't know for yourself, because you're a millennial, right? Because they said that millennials right now are very big on, and I'm at the tail end of Gen X, so I like to say I'm Gen X millennial cusp.
Okay.
What do you say? How do you see us breaking out of, it's normal to be strong Black woman when?
Yeah, it's something I am, it is something that I'm aware of and that I personally am trying to transition out of. Because I too have dealt with the black woman schema of I am supposed to be a superwoman. I am supposed to be able to handle anything and everything like my ancestors, right?
Right.
Like my
Right.
ancestors. And it's unfair to me because it takes away my humanity, that I can't be a person who is allowed to have a down day, um,
Yes.
who doesn't have
Yes.
who doesn't have all the answers. And so, remember, I said something that I'm divinely curated.
Yes. Yes.
And so, who am I to take away the humanity God gave me?
You know what? Say that again, and I think that's another thing. You're asking me what how do I even keep myself motivated? Who do I think I am to tell myself that I'm less than when God already said that He created me in His image?
Who are you? Right? Like you're
and
that powerful?
it's
Yeah.
so powerful.
Yeah. So
But
not
it's
only
a constant reminder.
yeah. It's not only who are we who are we to not think that we are more than what we think we are. So at the end of the day, you are capable, you're more than capable, right? And
That's
then
right.
in the flip, it's also who are we not to be the human beings God created. I'm not supposed to be perfect. Right. And again, who am I to take away my humanity? I have every right to be just as vulnerable as anyone else.
That's right. And go ahead. I'm sorry.
So when your question of like, Jill, what do you do? And you and I talked
Yes.
about this numerous times. It's
Yes.
creating a safe space of women around me who allow me and give me permission to be vulnerable and who support me in that.
That's right. That's right.
So
That normalize it and makes us feel like, it's okay. Now I've been learning just, and because I am surrounded by people that are caring, and I'm learning to realize that, people really do care and there isn't a hidden agenda. Sometimes it's kind of like, I need to watch you a little bit. But, I am learning that, right? Like, that that part sometimes, I don't know. But let me see. Make sure that I'm not, because I like to get really into the conversations, and I want to make sure that we didn't miss anything. No, we didn't. We're not missing anything. I guess there was something that I was gonna. Okay, so let's talk about Black History Month because it is Black History Month. So before I even I'm going to share. I'm just going to share a transparency of sometimes I question. So when you think about Black History Month, what I guess sometimes I am turned off by just the same. I don't know. I guess I'm just turned off by the same thing that I feel like, just there is just only Martin Luther King we talk about. We only talk about this just a few people. And or I guess for me, when you think about Black History Month, what is significant for you? Because I guess my excuse is that I say my family's from Haiti, and so I'm still trying to learn Black history from America because I'm really trying to learn Black history from Haiti, to be totally honest as well, just to understand But when you think about Black History Month, what does that mean to you?
For me, more recently, Black History Month has taken on a new meaning for me because, like you, I had the same 4 or 5 figures thrown at me, right, where we celebrate the Rosa Parks, which
Yes, yeah, and of course I honor them.
Yeah, but
Mm-hmm.
I had a phenomenal opportunity yesterday that I'm definitely going to blog about. Definitely want to post about this. I
Yes.
happened to be in a meeting with the great great grandson of J.B. Stratford, and I have to share who J.B. Stratford is
Okay.
if you
Okay.
don't
Thank
know.
you. Yes. 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 Please.
So J.B. Stratford was one of the pioneers and the founders of the Black Wall Street,
Oh.
which was
Okay.
in the 1800s was a Black community in near Tulsa, Oklahoma, where doctors, lawyers, men of color,
Yes.
Black people created a community where they were very successful. They supported one another economically, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, the dollar circulated in this community 10 times before before it left the community. It was such a
What?
phenomenal ecosystem of prosperity that was later burned down to the ground by a white mob because they were very upset that they were watching these Black people flourish. And so J.B. Stratford was a hotel owner, had the
Okay.
largest, I think it was a 54-room hotel in Greenwood, Oklahoma.
Okay. Okay.
And why he's significant to me is that I just learned within the last 3 months that J.B. Stratford graduated from the law school I graduated from. Uh, you know,
Okay.
over maybe about 120 years ago, J.B. Stratford graduated from my law school, and
Now that's super cool.
super cool, Tracy. But I bring him up to say that just happenstance, just by chance, I was in a meeting with his great great grandson, who is a pioneer in his own right. And so for me, Black history is not only teaching about the J.B. Stratfords,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also about what their legacy and people who are inspired by what they've done. Who are those people now? Right? Like
Yes.
history is about, and I'm not here to toot my own horn, but I've served in leadership roles where I think I was the first Black woman to
Mm-hmm.
be the deputy treasurer of Indiana and the deputy
Yes.
treasurer of
Yes.
Missouri. And so I think having the very current people that are using their platform, using their being the representation that we need in industries is also inspiring. Um,
Yes.
because I took that role. I accepted the role of deputy treasurer because I wanted young kids of color. I wanted all kids to be able to
Yes.
see,
All
um,
kids, right?
all
Yes.
kids to see that, wow, this woman, because there are not a lot of women in the financial space, and then this woman of color is helping manage our state's bank.
Yes.
So I think more of those everyday stories need to be highlighted in Black history
Yes.
because we too, you and I, we are Black history. We are
Yes.
Black history.
Yes. 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 And thank you for that. I think, and thank you for that because I think that what I struggled with is that it just seems like it was always the past, right? But I think I believe in that. I think it's really about what are we doing now to encourage more representation, right? Because even though it's Black History Month, and like you said, being, the first Black woman deputy of treasurer for the state of Indiana, I think that that is awesome in itself, because I mean, honestly, for everybody to see that, because I think that, no offense, but when you see the typical person up at the top, you just automatically think that that's what that person should look like all the time, right? But when you see someone else that looks different, I think it opens up opportunities for everyone, because now everyone says, oh, that initial mold has been broken, right? So it's not just, oh, only Black people are going to now be motivated to go, to go run for big. No, I think if anything, we see, ooh, that mold has been broken. So now we can all be a part of that. And I think that that's awesome. I think for me, when I think about Black History Month, I think it's just trying to figure out, what are we doing today, right? And for me, this is what I wanted to say earlier, and then I kind of forgot. Like, so when we think about like our ups and down emotions, right? I think that what we end up doing is that we have self-imposed jails, right? We block ourselves from moving forward. And it's not nobody else saying, you can't do this, or you can't rest, or, because that's what I kind of was hearing as you were speaking, and as we were both talking, I kind of heard this undertone of, we are self-imposing these limitations on ourselves. Now, yes, it's based off of something that we've heard from maybe external, but we're doing that to ourselves. So for me, I think, like, when I think about Black History Month, is how do I encourage other people, to get more involved? And what I would love to see, and I've just beginning having this slow increasing passion, for getting involved in public policy. Not for, and it's funny because not for the, I just want to be in charge, right? I think I just want to be that person there just says, hold on, wait a minute. Did we think about that? Did we get the data we were supposed, like, are we reaching out to the people? Are we connecting with people? And I just want to, I think for Black History Month, I want to see more people get involved. I want to see less of us, here's the thing. And I always got to say, here's the thing, right? Because I just want to make sure I don't say nothing crazy. So I got to make sure I think about what I'm saying. I just want to see more people get involved. And I think that the more that we get involved, the more that we can change things. But I think what we're seeing is that there's only certain people getting involved. And then there's only certain people complaining. And what I want to see is if we can get more of the people who are complaining about some of the things that we're seeing. I wish that we can teach them, educate them on how public policy works, so that they can come through the system and actually make some real changes, as opposed to, I think it's great that we can talk about it, but how can we translate that into, changing lives? And I think it really does happen with public policy, truly understanding how that works and how we can all contribute to that. And we don't have to all be lawyers, right? Like, I used to always feel like we had to be lawyers, that, and I think that I'm sometimes intimidated by the whole lawyer thing, right? Because I'm just like, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know the law like that. But I do know that if people understood how things work, I think that we would be able to create the change that we're looking for if we would get involved, instead of asking people to do the change for us, make the changes. We lead the change, get involved. That's what I want to see more people do, so that I feel like will help Black history. I feel like this will help us, because I guess when I learn about the history of Black people, everybody in the past, everyone's got involved in public policy. Everybody found a way to get, like, I guess I was just recently looking at Frederick Douglass's life. He was just all about getting involved, reaching out, figuring out how he can connect with people, build coalition, talk about it out loud, get involved though, right? Like, he was getting involved in the system. And I just feel like that's when we really make an impact, is when we get involved in the system. I mean, not the other way.
Well, and so it's funny because we come from a history of activism, right? From the Frederick Douglass to the Sojourner Truths to the Martin Luther Kings and the Fannie Lou Hamers. And I want to balance that with what we talked about earlier, which is resting.
Yes.
Sometimes activism doesn't have to be full front picketing.
That's right.
So what I want to say to your point about sometimes being engaged could be educating yourself.
Yes.
It may be, understanding what policies are being put in place. What are the pros and the cons, and analyzing them for yourself, as
Yes.
opposed to listening to news media tell you how you should be thinking about an issue.
Yes. Right.
So, yeah, Tracy, I think engagement comes in so many different forms. For some of us, it's running and becoming elected or appointed. For some of us, it is being representation. It is being in a room so that
Yes.
people can hear your perspective and hear your
Yes.
thoughts, having conversations with people about how certain things affect our lives, right? Um,
Yes.
but I think for us, a lot of us, Black history, we are often it's funneled through the lens of activism, and it's funneled through the civil rights movement. I will tell you that activism is also the inventions, the scientists, George Washington Carver, who was a
Yes.
famous scientist who did all kinds of things with peanuts, right? Us being engaged means resting enough
Yes.
to be a representative of our excellence, right? Being
Yes.
that teacher
Yes.
that's in the room, right? Because there's a shortage of Black male teachers. That's activism, that's engagement,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So I want to highlight the fact that there are so many of us who have been a part and had a significant impact on Black history, but our names are not highlighted in bold, because we played a role, much more intimate, right? In settings where we were in classrooms, or we were, again, we were bankers somewhere. So I just want people to know that Black History Month, that's why I said I'm Black history, you are Black history. It is how we're
Mm-hmm.
showing up in the world. But I want to make sure that as we're putting that responsibility on us to show up in excellence, that we recharge, we
Yes.
rest, and we
Yes.
also understand that our excellence also lies in our humanity. We're human beings who are going to get tired, and it's okay to
Yes.
rest in that too.
Yes, yes. I love how you bring it out, that rest. Like, come on, let's not forget the rest, because we got to rest. We got to recharge, because we do. We got to feed our souls, nurture our minds, and just relax a bit. But I love how you brought out like activism, even in, inventions, creating inventions, or, getting into science, because that's true. Breaking the norms, finding different ways to break the mold, I guess, is what I'm looking for, right? Like, how do we break the mold in whichever way? Because I feel like sometimes we're fighting in a world where we want people to understand, understand everybody, right? And I don't feel like that's going to happen. Like, I just kind of feel like, that's really not going to happen yet. But how can we help ourselves get what we need, right? And of course it's going to take that recharging, so that we can sit back and maybe at least be able to pause and say, okay, this is what I probably should be doing. I don't know, do I want to do this? But let me pause, instead of just autopilot moving constantly. What are you
And
about to say? I
Tracy,
feel like you're about to say something.
well, I think the start, and this is even going back to what Megan Thee Stallion alluded to,
Yes.
about being the fact that we have been, the therapist for everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
What if activism is learning how to advocate for ourselves?
That's you
Right?
know what? I think that's exactly what I'm trying to say, right? Like, yes. How do we advocate for ourselves? Because it just seems like we're trying to put the power in somebody else's hands, and they're not doing it right. And we're constantly looking at this saying, you're not doing it right. Give it back to me. You're not really validating me the way that I want you to validate. And it's just like, how about if we validated ourselves? How about if we knew what we want, we get clear about what it is that we want, get educated on how things work, and then go advocate for ourselves. I'm not saying, like, we can definitely go out and, create a blog, or, but how do we just advocate for ourselves in a way that doesn't take away our energy? That doesn't defeat us. How do we do that where we don't feel defeated because we're looking for somebody else to change, and now we can give that up and realize that the change we're looking for is really in how we see ourselves and being able to move forward. I think is another thing that got me is that, I'll be honest, and I'm just going to be honest on here because I can, right? I remember I used to always think about how the past was when it came to, Black and white. I used to always think that, there must have been no Black people that succeeded in the past, like none whatsoever. But whenever I would find like those one or two stories where you'd find like, somebody who went to a college, the only Black person who became a professor around a whole bunch of other, white people during that time, I would always say, well, what did that person do that was different from everybody else? And for me, it just seems like there were some people that were able to say, you know what, I know other people don't like me. Other people don't feel a certain way about me. I don't care. I know who I am, and I'm just going to believe who I am, and I'm going to move forward. And it seemed like those speckles of people in history have been successful while the majority of Black people weren't successful. So I always found that interesting. And I always said it has to be a mind thing. How can I know that things are not the way that we want it to be right now, but how can I just move past that and say, okay, well, in my renewed mind, I believe that I believe that I'm more than a conqueror. So I'm just going to move forward, and whatever it is, what it is. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, Tracy, I'm going to push back on the notion that the majority of that history is about the majority of Black people not being successful, or that there were just one or two, because unfortunately we haven't been in control of the narrative.
That's true too.
And
That's
so
right.
again, something you started off with is about, why do I keep learning about this 4 or 5 people for Black History Month, right? When the truth is, Black excellence was everywhere. Okay. But their stories may not have been told. And funny thing, and I use this example all the time, and I may have even used it with you, where I've been at a diverse group of people, and I'll ask them, do you know who Queen Elizabeth I is, or was, or Queen Elizabeth II, who just passed away last year? Do you know who Napoleon is? And every hand acknowledges that they know who these people are. And then I'll say something, I always follow up with this question: do you know who Toussaint Louverture is?
That's the truth.
And Tracy, I know you know exactly
that's
who
right.
he is. And
yes.
So interesting enough is, I don't care how often I ask these questions, the names I mentioned first are always recognized, but Toussaint Louverture is never recognized. And I said, isn't it funny how you know who Napoleon is, but you don't know about the man who beat Napoleon?
And here's the thing. I was an adult when I first learned about Toussaint Louverture, and that upset me. And I think that that's what upsets me about all of this is, like, I'm learning about all the, like, Tulsa, the Black,
Wall Street.
Hold on. What was the other Lake Geneva Lake in Atlanta? There's like a lake. And I think I learned about that 2 years ago. That broke my heart, and I was just like, it's like, and I think that that's what upsets me, because I think even being from, my family being from Haiti, we don't have a consistent record, right, of our history. And then, and I think that that's where it's just so frustrating, right? Because it's just like, where you learn about all these other things, but we don't know our history. And I think that's what bothers me, because I feel like I've been double burned, because I don't even have my Haitian roots. I don't fully understand that. And I don't have, and I don't know what the American history, Black history here in America fully,
So I think
it's just,
that gives us purpose, right? I think one of my missions, and something I'm very passionate about, is bringing these stories that are often buried or uncovered, or waiting to be revealed, to bring those to us so that we are empowered by them. J.B. Stratford is someone I want to write about. His great-great-grandson, who is phenomenal in the financial industry, who owns...
So that is, wait a minute. So he stayed within the financial industry too. What?
So John Rogers is the great-great-grandson of J.B. Stratford, and he co-owned with Melody Hobbs, the oldest Black investment firm in the country. So
in Indiana?
In Chicago. But they're a national firm. And so I say this to say, we have a lot of deprogramming to do when it comes to what we think. There are, like I said, so many successful, so many impactful leaders that have made a tremendous stride in our communities and in our progress. We just don't know their names. And, intentionally or not, these stories need to be revealed so that they empower you and I and our children. Right?
Yes.
Because we are more than capable. Black history is more than the 6 names we get and the 6 pictures, right, that we see floating around. And so I think it's up to you and I, now that we know that there's a gap, a big gap. I think using your podcast, I think going out during Black History Months and talking about the people who names have not been widely educated on. I think it's up to us to shine a light on who these victors were, because their stories are
Yes.
tremendous.
So let me ask you this. So then how would you go about that, right? Like, how would you go about, let's say, for somebody who wants to be exposed, maybe besides going to school, right? Is there a way, like a DIY way, to kind of dig in and kind of, find out some of these stories that could be powerful? Like, is there a way to, okay.
Yeah, so funny you
Okay.
asked, and I'm glad you asked this question because it is something I'm really passionate about. Um, I'm organizing several different workshops where I'm getting my tribe of women together, where
Yes.
we're going to use our time to flush out and uncover these stories and really take a self-discovery course, right? Really go back and understand our lineage. How am I like, Maggie Lena Walker, who was the first African-American woman to run a bank, right?
Yes.
How has some of the things she's gone through, how is it like some of my experiences? What are her characteristics? I think we can learn a lot from history, because I don't think there's anything new under the sun. Some
No,
of
no,
the
there isn't.
Right, Tracy, the lessons I'm learning as a 40-year-old woman, my mother had to learn and her mother learned. So how can I use the lessons they learned um, to elevate me into the woman I'm becoming? Maybe I don't have to make the same mistakes my mom did if I can learn from them. And
Yes.
so I saw that gap, the same gap that we're talking about of these of Black history not really being taught to us. And I
Yes.
actually want to create workshops. And I'm having it is nothing big. It's just my girlfriends getting together, and we're going to sit and
Yes.
talk about some of these stories that are empowering for us. So that is my intentional move. That's my
Yes.
bold move this year to start these workshops.
So okay, so it put a little pressure. I got to put a little pressure on. So when are you hoping to have the first one?
My first one's already scheduled for March 23rd.
Okay. See, okay. We holding
Because
ourselves accountable. Yes.
Well, I think it's vital. And if you think about America and our foundation, one of the things we pride ourselves on as a country is our history and our foundation.
Yes.
Well, if you take that and you put it on a smaller scale, if we have a community of people who don't have that history and that foundation, they feel lost. And you just described how you
Well, yeah.
feel burned and victimized by not having this history that you can rely upon for strength. So
Yeah.
my goal is to make sure that we start building that foundation, story by story, and intentional about what we're learning, so that one, it improves our mental health. When you know where you come from and you know
Yes.
the great shoulders you stand on, you understand that not only it's okay to be vulnerable, but you understand that it's just a season and that your ancestors went through something worse and
Yes.
prevailed. And so it's so empowering to know where you come from and whose shoulders you're standing on. And I think that's something that we need to bring forth, is that opportunity, that safe space where we can be vulnerable and then fill that vulnerability in with our
Yes.
history.
Yes.
So
Now, are you do you know your history as far as like ancestors? Like, do you have like the lineage? And yeah, see, now
as
that's
much
so
as we
cool.
can, yeah, as much as I
Yeah.
can. Obviously, a lot of our history wasn't recorded, so it's very
Okay.
much a struggle. But what I do know, and I can tell you what I've been able to discover about my lineage, has been empowering. It's been it has given me the courage to be bolder, right?
See, wow. Yeah. No, I mean, it's funny because it's those little things, right? Like, it's just like Black History Month. And it's just like, okay, really, what is Black History Month? Because, like, we've only been taught those few, and then being an adult, learning about Tulsa. I mean, honestly, it's kind of embarrassing when, you're this age and you're just like, oh, okay, so we had a community that was very successful. Of a Black community that did things, and that's what happened to it, and we don't talk about it. Like it's just interesting. Like it's not something that we talk about. I don't know.
Well, maybe this is an opportunity. Maybe this is another episode where we kind of dive into some of those stories. And so I would love to have our first episode where, maybe we talk about J.B. Stratford, and his great granddaughter, his granddaughter, who could have been our very first Black Supreme Court justice. So I'd love to even bring a little more about her story to the podcast. So
and she's current. Yes, let's do it. Is she a current person? Like right now?
She passed away a few years back, but history has uncovered that Nixon, and I'll have to share this because I talked to her son, right? Nixon was considering appointing her the first Black Supreme Court justice. She was the first Black deputy solicitor general. So I think I might have another topic for another episode if you want to do that.
So then we could definitely get into that because it's great to like learn some more about some Black history because that is not something, but and I think but it also goes back to knowing a little bit more about our history does make us feel a little bit better about who we are, right? Because if you can go back and pull back and just see like there have been people that have done things and it's not, us being weird and being the first. I mean, sometimes we may feel like we're the very first, but we're probably not really deep down because other people have tried before, but hopefully we are blessed to actually be able to really go forward and execute where our ancestors couldn't have.
And break the mold.
And break the mold, because that's what I'm trying to, that's what I want us to do is smash them to smithereens, and then allow for everyone to just be a part. Really, I truly do. I mean, honestly, I just believe if we're all made in God's image, there's no reason why we can't all, be able to embrace who we are, but then come together and bring that bigger picture together, but being who we are, right? Like not, being able to say, this is who I am, this is how God made me, and this is how I'm going to contribute to the cause. And I'm going to be able to make my mark that way. Okay, so we did kind of go over a little bit, 2 minutes, but I just thank you so much, Jill, for joining me on Check on Your Bold Sister, because this is a great opportunity for sisters to just check on each other and just be like, girl, what you been up to? What you been bold about? And this is Black History Month, so what's important for people to know, right? So I appreciate, because I've been educated today as well. Let me see, because I like to, so before we end, I like to say that the bold life belongs to everyone. However, only a few are bold enough to live it. Are you a part of the few? Now, what I did forget is and I'm going to do that real quick. I did forget the disclaimer. Right? Because here's the thing, I do want to make sure that everyone knows that we're doing this show. It's really a form of entertainment for brand awareness, right? Like this is not something where you're going to get hardcore advice to live your life, right? This is for you to chime in, have conversation with us, and just know that we're not endorsing anything or we're not against anybody, right? But we just want to make sure the disclaimer is out, right? Because just in case any sensitive, if just know that this is all about inciting conversation, because we need to have bold people who are willing to have those bold conversations. Is there anything you want to kind of throw in before throw in that thank you for watching screen?
No, I enjoyed the conversation, and I'm grateful that you checked in on me.
Oh, I'm grateful that you checked in on me too, Jill. I love that. All right. So thank you for watching, everyone. And until next time, we'll definitely have the details and more information on the next podcast and the topic. Thank you for watching.